accompany you on this day, Saturday, 19th of September 2020, for the next few minutes that will present global warming info.
Global warming is a process of searching for the average temperature of the atmosphere and the land mass of the Earth. Most of the increase in global average temperatures since the mid-20th century
is most likely due to surplus of greenhouse gas due to human activity through greenhouse effects. So, what are the facts about global warming? We may not realize that we are going through days where the climate or weather is much hotter year after year. Global warming has had a devastating impact on our Earth and threatened future generations of generation. Not even just in the future. Many of the worst impacts in the present include chaotic weather, loss of animal habitat, and the emergence of strange phenomena. Here are the harmful facts behind the ongoing global warming.
First, global warming is happening faster. The rise in the Earth's temperature could accelerate global warming. So in this video, you can see the change in global warming from year to year. Second, the glaciers in Antarctica are melting. If the melt rate of glaciers increases, rising sea levels will impact some 50 million people left behind in low coastal regions and large cities of the world. So, in this video, you can see the melting of the glacier. Third, we have carbon dioxide buildup. Carbon dioxide is among the most common of the gas produced by human activity. And the last, we have extinction of animals. It is estimated that some 1 million animal species on Earth are threatened with extinction because climate change in the event of extinction will affect ecosystem change in human life.
Okay, now we turn to the cause of global warming. Wondering what's the cause? Here are the various causes of global warming.
This occurs daily in different types of transportation by millions of people in the world simultaneously. Vehicle effect. It is this motor that accumulates and traps heat in the atmosphere. A study shows that global warming was led largely by the Industrial Revolution in America in the mid-19th century. To date, almost all industrial-based countries contribute large-scale cause of global warming. According to the World Bank, the world still loses about 14.5 million hectares of forest each year. This is due to various illegal and legal human activities. For example, many cases of deforestation intentionally or inadvertently to steal wood but leave the forest bog and abandoned. Producing electricity requires fuel that then releases a wide range of gases such as carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide will then cause a greenhouse effect. So everyone actually produces a carbon footprint that contributes to global warming. Caring for large numbers of farm animals, it produces enormous amounts of waste where it produces methane. Import from reuse these back products used by humans contribute 60% of greenhouse gas producers.
I will explaining the increase in CO2 from year to year. Carbon dioxide or CO2 is a compound closely related to the industrial era. Since the industrial world began to grow in the last 150 years, CO2 emissions have increased rapidly. The main factors are the burning of fossil for coal, natural gas, and petroleum.
Based on both data above, it can be seen that every year CO2 emissions increase from 2010 to 2015. Now, Earth's surface temperature continues to heat up. Referencing all this exposure, it can be concluded that it is necessary to prepare and anticipate more than usual in order for humans to be saner to deal with hot air.
Now I will discuss the relationship between chemistry and global warming. Global warming is caused by the greenhouse effect, or as we know it with greenhouse effects. The greenhouse effect is caused by increased concentrations of carbon dioxide or CO2 gas and other gas in the atmosphere. This increase in CO2 gas concentration is due to the increase in the burning of oil, coal, and other organic fuels that exceed the ability of plants and the sea to sponsor it. Therefore, efforts are needed to reduce CO2 emissions. The way that can be done is by reducing CO2 emissions before the process, in and after the process. Carbon capture and storage or CCS technique is a technique after the process that is carbon released, captured and stored biologically using microalgae. In addition, there are also CCS that do not use microalgae, i.e. capture then separate and stored back physically. This technique is commonly applied to mining areas that produce a lot of CO2. Speaking of ways of reducing carbon, there are effective techniques for limiting carbon emissions that are replacing oil energy with other energy sources that do not beg for carbon and which would use oil energy as sparingly as possible. Alternative energy that can be used include wind, sunlight, nuclear energy, and earth heat. Increased CO2 is a potential greenhouse gas effect that can generate hot temperatures on Earth. Increased concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere can lead to the global warming, impacting unstable climates that will ultimately lead to natural disasters in different regions of the world. Next, I will explaining the response in dealing with topics discussed from the side Christian students, governments, communities, and entrepreneurs. Global warming has been happening since the last decade, and until now, global warming is still a major environmental issue that is being discussed and is being confronted. Global warming is the process of increasing the temperature of the Earth's face produced by the radiation produced by sunlight towards the atmosphere. Then most of these rays turn into hot energy absorbed by the Earth's air and surface. Then some of the infrared is returned to the atmosphere and captured by greenhouse gas so that the Earth's temperature increases. The Earth is experiencing global warming that triggers climate change, but we as Christian students can reduce global warming by changing our daily behavior. As Christian disciples, we can pray for this nature created by God and also help each other in small things such as not being wasteful in the use of electricity. In this case, we can already reduce global warming. Instead of looking for courage to fight climate change, we need to find the courage to see a sensible solution right in front of us. Today, we as adult Christian disciples can help us all find a way, and together we can create the future we want. Some of the efforts made by governments in tackling global warming come from people who are literate about global warming, those who care about the importance of preserving life, and those who pay attention to the state of the environment for the future. If the world is already like this should do what it takes to address it. Therefore, those who care about the environment began to research and observe the importance of preserving the environment. Meanwhile, in the Constitution number 32 of 2009 on environmental protection and management, namely global warming is one of the very important aspects of the living context, law that is increasing and increasing global warming, thus exacerbate the decline in environmental quality and the management and protection of the environment. The only way to tackle global warming in an effective way to reduce carbon dioxide gas and reduce the use of fossil fuels is to use bicycle, nitrogen-fueled cars, and it would be better if the main rely was on food so as to reduce carbon dioxide gas and make the body healthy and fit. That is the effort made by governments in tackling and preventing global warming, because if left continuously, global warming will get worse and worse because it is seen from year to year, is always changing. If not immediately done, prevention will be fatal and not only impact on the surface of the earth, but also impact the environment and living things that are in it. While we cannot stop global warming, we can at least slow the impact the such global warming has on us. The following are three real-life steps in coping with the global warming we can take. First, making electric savings. By saving electricity, indirectly we have reduced CO2 levels in the atmosphere layer because most of this CO2 gas is generated from fossil fuel power plants. Second, reduce use of fossil fuel vehicle. As is known, with fossil fuel vehicles, such as cars and motor are the large contributors to CO2 in urban areas. With the increasing use of private vehicles, the carbon dioxide emissions incurred are even greater. To reduce the use of fossil fuel vehicles, you can switch to using public transport. And the last, planting trees. Planting trees or arborizing is a real step to balancing CO2 gas levels in the atmosphere, because the tree will absorb CO2 gas to perform the photosynthesis process and will release oxygen into the air. It is not enough to plant trees in a private garden, you also need to plant trees in the residential and surrounding environment. It needs to be known that these measures to cope with global warming will not immediately be seen by the impact and will quickly cool our Earth, but if it is done continuously and by the majority of the Earth's population, the next few years will see change that can be felt. Here is how global warming can also be used to reduce, prevent, overcome, and cope with the effects of global warming. As businessmen, they can using alternative energy. In dealing with hot room temperature, we can design a building that has lots of air vents, so there is no need to use air conditioning. But if the use of air conditioning is necessary, make sure we use an environmentally friendly non-CFC air conditioner. Like with refrigerator, we should use non-CFC refrigerator to avoid the greenhouse effect and so that global warming does not worsen and harm humans. Reduce paper use. Overuse of paper is one of the great causes that affect global warming. For using lots of paper means that we help eliminate many trees. Because paper comes from wood, thus high paper consumption requires increasing logging of trees. This is a detailed reason why we should minimize paper consumption. whenever possible for the sake of environmental sustainability. Therefore, start now to reduce paper use, such as using paper as efficiently as possible. Making electrical saving. How to cope with next global warming is to save electricity. Electricity is one of the many forms of energy that humans need, although not all humans use electricity. Electricity is an energy that plays a vital role in modern living cultures. However, electricity from current power plants mostly use fossil fuels that produce carbon dioxide. The more electricity is used, the more waste gas is carbon dioxide, so the greenhouse effect can worsen. It is, therefore, essential for us to have an electric safe. One way is by removing the wire from the switch when is it not used and blowing the light out.
Global warming has been the problem that mankind has been focusing on. This phenomenon is nothing more than the result of man's own actions and the effect it has on the man himself. To tackle global warming, it is very hard because it is nearly impossible to solve today. Global warming is hard to overcome, but we can lessen its effects. This is our assurance of Earth life in the future. When we have instilled a love for the Earth, global progress is but a dark history that has fallen upon it.
That's the news for today. See you later.